Back in 1975, my brother David and I and David Stansky started the band. We were living in Michigan. We weren't actually a garage band. We were setting up in our living room. Usually I was playing either drums or guitar, but sometimes I would play a saxophone. And then my brother David would be on drums, and then David Stansky would be playing guitar. I don't know where David Stansky is now. I had heard that he was living in Kalamazoo, working as a mailman, and I did send a letter to him, but it was later returned to us, and it seemed kind of odd to me that here he is a mailman, and the postal people in Kalamazoo could not find one of their own workers.
We grew up and went to high school in Michigan, and that was like the best time to be in Michigan and the best place to be, because we had like the MC5 and the Stooges, and other parts of the country, I don't know what they had, but you couldn't beat the Five and the Stooges. Plus we had Motown on the radio. The Detroit radio would be playing Motown, and then there was a Fort Wayne radio station in Indiana that played like Beach Boys and stuff. So we had what the rest of the country has, but we had the advantage of having the Five and the Stooges like at our high school dances and stuff. So, not bad.
I can remember where I was when Kennedy was shot. I was in a grade school class in Kinnelon, New Jersey. And I can also remember where I was when I first heard Half Japanese. Would have been in the offices of New York Rocker fanzine. It was sort of a newspaper that ran in New York in the late 70s. And a lot of people had heard about Half Japanese because they'd taken out a series of ads in Trouser Press and places like that. And there were obviously a couple of weird-looking guys who were putting out records. And people were shy about sending a few bucks off to find out about them. So they mostly stayed an unknown quantity. Well, one day, in the New York Rocker office was a magazine that I was writing for. And Half Japanese sent a box of their first 7-inch, Calling All Girls, to a personalized copy to each person who was listed on the masthead. So this box of 20-odd singles showed up with a neatly hand-lettered name on the front of each envelope. And we took it out and we played it, and the art director, Chris Nelson, and I were floored by the way it sounded. And nobody else at the magazine was interested in picking up their copy at all. And you put it on, and it was obviously, a burst of duo genius that just had a feel to it that had been unrivaled since Coltrane and Rashid Ali recorded Interstellar Space.
We did the first couple little records right here in this house, just on a cassette recorder, and just right upstairs in our own little studio. After that, we got a reel-to-reel recorder and more guys in the band and made a little bigger sound, but started out little in this big house.
Jad and Dave recorded Calling All Girls while we were back in Michigan getting ready for Peter's wedding. And they did it the week before the wedding. And when they came out, the job was accomplished. The recording had been made. And they put an ad in one magazine one time, and they were sold out within a few weeks. So they reprinted that, and it just... they were all gone in just a very short time. Absolutely amazing.
The record itself, when it came out, was especially unique because, well, a lot of groups were putting out their own records at the time, self-recorded, self-released. but very few of them sounded like this. I don't think any of them sounded anything like this. Usually they were groups that had some commercial potential whatsoever, really had some hope to recoup their investment, and maybe Jad and David felt the same about theirs. If I were doing it, I probably would not have expected anyone would have wanted this or would have been interested in listening to this, but they were bold enough to take their money and put it into putting this thing out, and no one else had anything remotely like it.
It seemed like it's pretty easy to play a guitar because, once you know the science of it, that the high notes, the little skinny ones make high sounds, the big fat ones make low sounds, and then if you go on the part of the guitar near where you pluck it, that makes high sounds, and down at the other end, then you got it mastered. That's all you got to know. Oh, and if you want it to be fast, play fast, and if you want to go slow, go slow. That's all there is to it. It's that easy to play guitar. Some people worry about chords and stuff, and that's all right too. There's all kinds of music in the world. You might want to learn some other stuff if you're doing that kind of music. For what we do, for what I was doing, that was the beauty of it. You can learn it that first day.
Well, yeah, you do need chords in order to plug the guitar in, but
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Half Japanese are not a band that makes sense in small doses. That's my feeling. They're not a band that you can really comprehend everything they're about just by listening to a song here or there as part of a mixtape. I mean, certainly they can be enjoyed like any other band on earth, but I think it to really appreciate what they've done, I think it requires more commitment from the listener. I think you need to give yourself a good 5 or 6 hours in a row of just listening to Half Japanese and thinking about Half Japanese, and you should be alone while you're doing it. You shouldn't be washing dishes or vacuuming or reading a book. You should just be concentrating on Half Japanese, imagining that that you're in the room while they're performing, except you shouldn't make any sudden movements or use a flash camera so to disturb them. I mean, I think that's the way to listen to Half Japanese. I think people are just so fucking casual about it. That's why more people haven't found out about it, because they lack the intestinal fortitude to really check this band out.
I'll change my style. Oh baby, like a child. If the beating of my heart beat too slow for you, just tell me and I'll change it too. I'll change the way that I walk. I'll even change the way that I talk. If there's something about my kissing that don't please you, just tell me and I'll change it too. Ways. Each night and every day. If there's anything you want me to change at all, just tell me and I'll change it all.
Some people think that it is difficult to play music when you've never played an instrument before. I mean, I had never played guitar before, I'd never played drums before starting Half Japanese. But on day one of the beginning of the band, I was both a drummer, guitarist, and vocalist. And anything else, I would put in my hands. I could play it and play it well.
Well, to me, punk rock started before Half Japanese. I heard the Sex Pistols on one of these magazine TV shows, and they were singing God Save the Queen or Anarchy, and they had subtitles. So to me, that was a sort of a rebirth of rock and roll, which I hadn't been listening to for many years. But here's something that normal people look at and say, this is strange. This has to be interpreted. We can't just listen to this. So that had a huge impact on me. Right there, I said, well, maybe there's some future to rock and roll still to go.
Suddenly, all of us musicians who didn't have bands to play with were coming out of the closet and trying to make bands. It didn't bother. Suddenly, we weren't worried about the fact that we didn't know how to play very well or play with other people. We just wanted to put a band together and get on the stage.
What was important to me, and I think probably other members of the band, was to be productive and put this music down and record it, and that was a big motivating thing. And of course, it got to be kind of almost a habit. Like you'd ride the car up to Uniontown every weekend and go through the technical mishaps that we went through, and eventually get something that you could try to get people to put out. And it was really important to get records out, and that was being a rock star in my mind. That the fact that I was on records that people could buy if they wanted to, and that I could own, of course, that was a big motivator, that I owned these things that I played on.
The house that we're in, which is almost 200 years old, has been called the birthplace of punk rock, and that is really exciting.
When punk rock came, it just seemed like it was coming all over the world, because it had to, because music just was so, it had just taken a nap, fell asleep. All the big major labels, we caught them napping, so we just gave a little energy, and that's what everybody wanted. That's what anybody would want.
When I first saw David and Jad, it seemed like a perfectly logical and normal thing to be doing with music, which was trying to cram a lot of it into a 10-minute span. That was what I liked about punk rock, was the bands played for 15 minutes. And they played 12 songs, so if you didn't like the song, well, there's another one coming up real soon.
Well, when the boys would practice, our dogs used to hide under the couch just because it was loud.
I did send cassette tapes of our first record to quite a number of record labels. The only response that I did get back was from Warner Brothers, and they said that they would definitely not release the record.
In the olden days, almost every label was an independent label. By the time the mid-'70s rolled around, it seemed as if you either existed on a major label or you didn't exist as a band or a musical entity at all. Then people like Jad and David and a few other brave souls realized, oh, these pressing plants exist, and you can give them a tape, and you can send them some money, and they will send you back a record. Of course, there was almost no way to sell them, except run an ad in some fanzine here, some fanzine there, and hope that someone would send you $3. But it was an act of faith in a lot of ways. It was taking a lot of your hopes and whatever else and pressing it onto a little piece of black plastic and sort of throwing it out into the void and hoping, like a message in a bottle, I guess, that it sort of traveled back to you with word of someone else off there in the dark unknown.
In the early days of rock, there were independent record labels. Their drive was always towards having hit records, and the charts were open for these companies to have hits. It actually happened where small independent record companies could have big hit records. Somewhere along the line, I personally think it happened with Woodstock, but I'm not really sure, the major record labels learned how to really manipulate the buyers and the radio stations, etc., into liking and buying just what they wanted them to like and to buy. So after that point, there became independent record companies again, but their focus was not really on having hit records. There was no such hope. It was just really on getting their music out there, maybe building towards something, or maybe just having a document of what they did. If possible, getting back their investment so they could put it into another record. And there started to be a little mini revolution in that direction.
When the boys first got their big break, a representative came over from Armageddon, and he came to the house here, and the boys took him upstairs to the 3rd floor. And every once in a while, I'd come downstairs and ask for some more Coke to take up. And they were excited. They could hardly stand it because they said, the deal's getting better, it's getting better. And when the day was finished, they had a contract for a box set with artwork included, and that was really a big break. It's incredible to this day. At that point, Frank Sinatra had just come out with a box set, and his was costing $60, and I just couldn't believe that the boys could be offered such a deal.
We had made some cassette tapes, and we were calling them Half Gentleman, Half Beast, by Half Japanese. But then when we put together enough to make a 3-album set, and we called it, first it was called Half Gentleman, Half Beast, but then like crossed out Half Beast and put Half Gentleman, Not Beast, because we're like nice guys.
Well, I figured the box set was largely an outcome of how unique Jad and Dave were, and it was just, say, incidental that they happened to invite John and I along for the ride. But I think they wanted some company.
Well, it was flabbergasting that somebody would actually want to sit us down and get us to sign contracts. I mean, just the act of signing a contract that would mean that somebody was interested enough to try to have proprietary rights to this was flabbergasting, and we were all so skeptical that it was just, it was a riot.
When I first heard that Half Gentleman Not Beast was going to be coming out as a 3-LP box, I was as astounded as the next man. And in fact, I thought Jad was lying to me. He wrote it to me in a letter. And I said, "Oh, that's fine." Great, Jad. That's very good. And then when it showed up, I was quite astounded, though. Few bands deserved it more than Half Japanese. They took a box, they filled it with pictures, they filled it with music. The Half Gentleman Not Beasts tape itself, which had existed before that, was one of the most remarkable pieces of live performance, especially to an unenthusiastic crowd, that I had heard in quite a long time.
When we first got our record offer from Armageddon, I thought, well, should we do a record, or is it cooler to do cassettes because that's more of a people thing? But then I thought, well, no, records can be listened to by people too.
Records are cooler.
Yeah, well, yeah, records are cooler. The cool thing, though, about cassettes is that anyone can do them, and it's a very easy thing to get across to somebody.
Well, the cassette underground is something that came along only really in the 70s when tape technology became very affordable, and bands like bedroom bands were able to exist because you could sit in your bedroom with a small cassette that would record reasonably well, not even make a copy of it, but have a cassette just to send to somebody else, whether it was a friend or an acquaintance in a different town who also was sitting in their bedroom making something, and he could swap these things back and forth. Eventually, somebody came along with 2 tape decks and said, hey, I can make copies of my tape and your tape to send to this other guy that I know in this other town that does this. And it basically just worked in that way. Half Japanese were among the first bands to really utilize it as a band rather than just, some horrible loner. There were 2 of them.
We have here souvenir of Richmond, Virginia. The contents is this little bag sent by Dave Fair. It says 1 red guitar, 1954 to 1979, DOA RIP. Early on, before Half Japanese really started to take off, they had a mailing list of, I don't know, maybe 50 fans or so, and they would keep up pretty active correspondence with this mailing list. They would send tapes. They would do really nice tape packages and all sorts of drawings, etc. Sometimes formal, sometimes informal packages, and they would send them out to these people on the mailing list without even soliciting money or saying, do you want this, send us some dough. They would just think it up, put it together, and send it out to these people. One of the packages, one of the formal ones, was from one of David's late guitars. I think the Richmond, Virginia was the first or second Half Japanese show, and David smashed his guitar and took the little remains of it, loaded it into these little baggies, and sent it out to their fan club members.
When we played live, I used to carve notches in my guitar, the same way gunslingers do on their guns on the Western movies. If we beat the other band we were playing with, then I'd put a notch in the guitar. And I put a notch every single time we played, because there's nobody I'm scared of. I'm not sure if everybody in the audience is going to give you the same opinion that we won that night, or if anyone even knew there was a contest going on. But I knew, and I knew we were better every time. And I don't mean to insult anybody we ever played with, because we saw some great shows too, but I know I can do this better than anyone else can do exactly what I'm doing.
Half Japanese were in Boston to do a show at some club, I can't remember which one, and that was their electric show one night, and then the next day they were going to do this acoustic show at the Duplex Nursing Home, and they played on the back porch of the home, and the audience was the residents of the home. This helped teach me was that the audience of these residents of the home are a lot more open to hearing things that are out of the ordinary for them than my own peers.
I'm gonna wait till the stars come out and see the twinkle in your eyes. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour.
They weren't quite sure what to make of them, but they liked the theatricalness of it. There was a bit of a spectacle outside of the ordinary nursing home entertainment, which would normally be kind of somebody with singing songs that they knew. This was kind of David sitting there with a snare drum with a towel over it, and Jad playing a guitar that said Jad on it and dancing around like mad, and then Mark sort of holding it together by playing the chords.
That whole period of the band was really when they went, in a lot of ways, they started moving out of the underground into the daylight for the first time. The egg cartons were off the walls in the bedroom, and there was a studio off somewhere in the distance. And, they met some people who could, play some additional instruments that would help them out. And Jickling was certainly part of that. He seemed to also know some girls, it seemed like, though... Jad was always a legend as a Casanova, but Jickling seemed to have a part in that, and now I noticed that he's been involved in a film with David, so perhaps he had additional writing talents there that perhaps didn't come to the fore during his tenure with the band. Jad has always seemed very dictatorial in his writing ways, and he sees a very specific order for the universe, and everyone in the band must assume their planetary shape.
A long time ago, someone asked David, what kind of songs do you guys write with Half Japanese? How would you characterize them? And David said, we do 2 kind of songs. We do love songs and monster songs. And I think, you can't beat that. I mean, one or the other, and you've got it covered. I mean, that's what rock and roll should be about, you know, love songs and monster songs. And, you know, Jad still does the best. I mean, you know, and in the monster songs, half the time they're happy, you know, they're happy monsters. They're not like, you know, I mean, they might be a little ghoulish, but, you know, they could be your friend, too. They could be like the monster who's your friend.
Horrible is a record we did of monster songs. There was a song about a zombie, one about Dracula, one about walking through a wall, one about Rosemary's Baby, and one about a thing with a hook.
The Thing with a Hook was a song that we wrote about that maniac that tears heads off boyfriends and girlfriends down at Lover's Lane. They always tell about it at camp and everything. It's about the maniac would come up while they were in Lover's Lane and tear their heads off with this horrible, horrible hook he had.
And Thing with the Hook is one of my favorite songs because it got us the most royalty money from BMI. And so, you know, I'm all for that.
I'm not entirely sure why Half Japanese started doing monster songs. Just one day, that was what we were doing. It was monsters. Everyone in the band thought that was a great idea. So that was just a vacuum waiting for the band to fill, the horror movies.
10 years ago, they cut off his hand and gave him a hook and put him in jail for the criminally insane. Now he's back.
Jad and David are sort of a classical archetype. You've got the big guy and the little guy. You've got the sort of nervous, wiry guy and the big, gregarious, easygoing guy. It's you know, it's Laurel and Hardy. It's Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. It's an archetype. It's a classic.
One important thing I think about Half Japanese is that we always played the best we could. We did the best job we could, and it's an important distinction because I heard another band cover one of our songs one time, and they did a good version of it. But what the difference is, it was people who could play good, trying to sound a little bit wacky, and we're coming from a different direction. Like, you know, maybe it's wacky people, but trying to sound as good as you can. It's a big distinction. It's, you know, we're not trying to sound goofy. We're making the best record we can make, and the best playing the, you know, absolutely the best we can. And I think that's pretty important for, you know, kids starting out. And if you got a little band, you know, maybe you want to try and sound goofy. I don't know. Well, you know, that's okay because it's your band, you know, and you can do that if you want. But, you know, that wasn't what our band was about, and it wasn't how we approached it. We tried to make a good record and do the best job you can. Try and sound good. That's what we did.
Oh, the state of music in 1990 is as bad as it was in 1980. All record companies think about is money, of course, which is their right, but they have no feelings that maybe they should also just put out albums that may not make them $5 million, may only make them $2,000. But wouldn't that be nice if people got to hear other things besides Madonna and Michael Jackson?
Half Japanese teaches while everybody else is still learning. And yeah, I still think that's true through however many lineups and however many scattered records. I still think that's true.
Well, Jim, you need anything now?
But I mean, they're a band that everyone else is still pretty much trying to catch up with. And I don't think anyone really, you know, I don't think anyone really knows that except for maybe you know, Jad himself. You know, I think he's probably too shy to admit it. But I think he's, you know, painfully aware of the influence he's had on other groups. I think he's very conscious of the fact that anytime you turn on MTV, you're going to see, you know, 4 or 5 videos in a row from bands who've copied their entire look and their entire sound from that of Half Japanese. And I'm sure it must be, you know, it must be galling to him, you know, to see these people making millions of dollars over something that he originated. But, you know, I mean, I just hope he doesn't, you know, have to end up, you know, 60, 70 years old, Blind or something before people realize what he's brought to American music.
Magic Kingdom is a song that I wrote, and it's about Walt Disney. I'm really quite fond of Disneyland. I've been there once.
1, 2, 3. All they said it was one man's dream and hopes come true. All they said it is so much and so much more. A castle in a jungle, one man's dream come true. A haunted house, a parade, fireworks every night, fun for all every day. I've been to the one down in Florida a couple times, and I went to the one in California a few years back, and I've never been to the one in Japan, but I've seen pictures of it, and it looks good. It looks good to me. All they said it was. All they said it is so much, so much. One man's dream come true. Yeah, there's a magic castle down in Florida. Yeah, there's a magic castle in California. Yeah, there's a magic castle in Japan, and I think they're building one in France. Yeah. Everything it was, it is. Everything it is, it was. And I'm so glad it's there, because it's like one man's vision. It's one man's hopes. It's one man's dream. It's one man's life. And he did it for us. Why? Because he loves us.
I think that the uprising of the independent labels was a very natural evolution for the business, because the major labels are to blame for it. I mean, they sowed the seeds of their own falling, really, by trying to cram what they thought we wanted down our throats, what they thought we would spend our money on. They tried to tell us what to think, and to a point, we put up with it through the 70s. I mean, people were listening, not me personally, but people were listening to Styx and Supertramp, and these were supposedly the great music of when I was in high school. That's what people thought. But eventually they sowed the seeds of their own downfall, because everyone said, screw it, I'll look elsewhere. And they did.
Are independent labels necessarily better than major labels? Is there something inherently good and pure about indie rock, and something inherently evil and scummy about major label rock? And I mean, my answer is no. I don't think there's anything necessarily bad about a major label record, and as soon as a good one comes out, I would be very happy to buy it.
I think independent music and independently released music, and even in other art forms too, independent publication and whatnot, have always been the place where movements and different things have started, with Sun Records and with people, small labels, and at Marvell, that guy selling records out of his trunk in the 50s, and that would be how a lot of stuff was getting out there. And then I think what's happened now, especially with this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and everything, we're sort of seeing the solidification of this stuff into dinosaur proportions, the same way that the crooners and all that stuff that rock and roll came in and stomped on in the 50s that Mitch Miller thought would never last and all that. The stuff was easy to just knock over at the time. And I think once you start seeing everybody wearing tuxedos and patting themselves on the back and wondering about retirement and their investments and all that, which is certainly a fine thing to have happen, you're seeing that it's time for something new to come in and shake everything up.
Red Dress is a song written about, telling all the different options people have in clothing. And it starts with red dress and going out in the night. And then after that, you have a blue dress going down to the river, then a yellow dress. I think on the record, I didn't put in the part about the yellow dress. But that's something that I always put in now, because I have it going up to the top of the, getting stuck at the top of a Ferris wheel, just like in the movie East of Eden, where like James Dean and Natalie Wood get stuck up there for, it wasn't very long. I mean, they were maybe stuck up there for 5 minutes, but I'm sure it was a long, very long 5 minutes for them.
1, 2, 3, 4. Put on your red dress and we'll walk in the night. Put on your red dress. Put on your red dress. What a lovely, lovely night. Put on your red dress. Oh, Juanita, my sweet Juanita. Oh, Juanita, my only one. Put on your blue dress, we'll walk by the river. Put on your blue dress. Put on your blue dress, and when you kiss me, I'll shiver. Put on your blue dress. Oh, Juanita, my sweet Juanita. Oh, Juanita, my dearest one. Put on your yellow dress. We'll go up in a Ferris wheel. Put on your yellow dress. Put on your yellow dress. We'll stop at the top just like in East of Eden. That's that movie with James Dean and Natalie Wood, where they go up in a Ferris wheel. They're stuck there for a while. They're just talking, holding hands. They kind of like it up there. Gives them some time to be together. Gives them time. Put on your white dress. We'll walk down the aisle. Put on your white dress. Put on your white dress. When you say I do, I'll smile. Put on your white dress. Oh, Juanita, my sweet Juanita. Oh, Juanita, my dearest one. Now I'm gonna tell you my definition of a lucky man. I was walking down the street, looking down at the sidewalk, and I saw a $100 bill laying down before me. When I bent over to pick it up, jumped right into my hand. Like magic, it jumped right into my hand. And I was looking at it, and I saw some more zeros. It wasn't a $100 bill, it was a $1,000 bill. And then I held it close, like real close, And it wasn't a $1,000 bill. No way, it was $1 million bill. Tax free. I'd have to call that lucky. I'd have to call that damn lucky. Ow! Put on your red dress. Put on your blue dress. Put on your yellow dress. Put on your white dress. Oh, Juanita, my sweet Juanita. Oh, Juanita, my dearest one.
MTV has just, I don't know how to describe what I feel about MTV. I don't let my kids watch it. I don't like the videos they have, not just because of the music. I don't like the lyrics. I don't like how women are portrayed. I don't like how love is portrayed. And I don't want my children thinking that's the way it's supposed to be. So I find that extremely offensive. That's one of the reasons I don't like MTV. They've just lapped up the crap that all the media does now with ads. It's extreme. My feeling is that from seeing the few that I do see on MTV, it's not rock and roll anymore, it's dance. If you're a good dancer and you have a pretty face, well, you're going to have a hit record, and that is really disgusting.
MTV is almost outside my sphere when the cable company to which I was a subscriber in Los Angeles said they were going to put MTV on my system. I canceled my cable, and I actually took out the box and sent it back to them and said, "Thou shalt not charge me for this, friends." The thought of actually watching a bunch of guys in merkins or cod pieces marching around in my living room while, a bunch of scantily clad women, toss their wigs around is, so ridiculous. The thought that for the price that they made one of those videos, Jad and David made like 900 hours of cassettes, and sent them all over the world for less than the cost of, Warner Brothers Records' bikini budget. It's it's just ridiculous. I'll have no part of that, and no one else should either.
It's very sad. Young people find out about music for the first time through MTV, and that's how they learn how to act at gigs. That's how they learn about their rock history, and their rock history doesn't go back very far. If they watch regular MTV, the rock history will go back as far as Jimmy Page or Robbie Robertson or Val Kilmer. That's rock history. If they're an adventurous young person, they can watch 120 minutes, and their rock history can go back about as far as the Vapors turning Japanese, or it could go, Echo and the Bunnymen or something like that. I mean, I think it's criminal that the so-called alternative program on MTV hasn't devoted an entire 1 or 2 hour special to the history of Half Japanese. There's a few other bands, that they should maybe spend a couple of minutes on as well.
The MTV story was we were going to be guest VJs. And I would also go, legislation to kill anyone who had ever been a guest VJ in history. I would gladly die if that legislation could be put through. We were guest VJing, and I said that all I wanted to do was show Residents, Lou Reed, NRBQ, and Half Japanese. NRBQ was considered to not have a video good enough. Residents could buy the skin of their teeth. Lou Reed made it easily. The Half Japanese thing, we argued for days and days and days to try to get a little thing from the Hell video on, and they would not do it. So finally we ended up doing the news segment. This was back pre-Kurt Loder. Can you remember back those days? And we got permission after fighting to show 11 seconds of Half Japanese. I said they were the greatest rock and roll band in the world and said, let's do a comparison. Paul McCartney had a new video out at that time. And the way I got to do it was with a gag where we showed 11 seconds of Half Japanese and 11 seconds of Paul McCartney riding a subway to show he was one of the people, and said, which one's more rock and roll, you decide. And we ended up with a freeze frame of Jad going and a freeze frame of Paul McCartney going. And I said, which one is more rock and roll? This gentleman from Baltimore, Maryland, or this gentleman here, this elderly gentleman from Liverpool. And they had to cut the word elderly because the record company said they would pull everything that came out if I called one of the Beatles elderly. So I say, which is better, this guy from Baltimore or this? And it just cuts off.
1, 2, 3, 4. This could be the night. This could be everything we ever wanted. It could be the night. I have an angel. Let me tell you about an angel. Well, I have an angel who comes to me and makes sure I'm all right. I have an angel with brown eyes.
Most people who have any interest in music never even listen to the radio. I don't think I've listened to a radio in 12 years. It's one thing to be a citizen and not be able to hear this music that you like, but to be someone trying to make this music and knowing there are people who like it, and there are people who would buy the records, and there are people who go to the shows and really like it, and you still can't even make just a limited living out of it. It really is sick.
My time is now. My time is here. And this could be it. it. Word. This could be everything I ever hoped for. You go, I mean, like, who could hope for anything more than an angel? I mean, like, you know, what's better than an angel? A princess? Like, you know, a cheerleader? No. That's not even, like, you know, not even half as good as an angel. And that's what I have. I've got an angel.
And radio's radio. I mean, now there's college radio. So if you live near a university, and most states have a good university, you don't have to put up with, you know, 50 million megawatts of pure 70s, whatever. So we've got an alternative, and if the big record labels don't like it, you know, all I can say is they deserve what happened to them. It's their fault. They made us do it.
Well, this could be the night. N-I-G-H-T. You know what? I tell you what. And I don't think I'm mistaken one little bit if I tell you that everything is R-I-G-H-T, and that spells right.
I used to write the underground column for Spin. I was the underground editor there nominally for a while, about 4 years. And though I was able to spend my entire tenure at Spin without ever actually speaking to Bob Guccione Jr., the word that I got one day was that, well, we're going to have to let the column go because the underground does not exist. If you can prove to us that it exists, maybe we can make a case for you in the next board meeting. But the way it stands now, nobody can find it. What do you know, who are these bands you're writing about? I attempted to make the point, well, the reason that you should write about these bands is because you've never heard of them. And no one in your shoes is likely to hear of them unless they're written about in this fashion, because Spin, in its favor, for a while, would get the word on bands like Half Japanese, you know, Mo Tucker, I mean, whoever else, bands that were not in anyone's limelight, into 7-Elevens in small towns in the Midwest. And I used to get a lot of mail from kids who would read about these bands and go, you know, does a band called Half Japanese really exist? Are they half Japanese? And you'd write back and go, well, they're half Japanese really only in a certain way. They do exist.
The danger of a film like this and talk like this is that we start thinking of Half Japanese as sort of a symbol, you know, that we are trying to champion some sort of cause, you know, using Half Japanese, and you can't do that because they're not a symbol. They're a real band with real records that everybody on the planet ought to hear, and there is no real cause to champion because any other band that might, you know, slip in there as a result just doesn't deserve it.
Yes, it could. And yes, it is. Thank you.
Because this is quote-unquote popular music, there are a lot of people who just assume that if you don't aspire to be Bon Jovi, if you don't aspire to be Sonic Youth, then you're just pissing in the wind. And you know, I wish all those people were dead. You know, not Bon Jovi and Sonic Youth, just the people who assume that if your goal isn't chart success, you know, then you're just clogging up the works. You know, I would like to continue to clog up the works. I mean, clogging up the works is a lot of fun.
I did Miami Vice, and it was the most miserable time in my life. And while I was spending my time being around Don Johnson and whoever the other guy's name was, 3 names, I listened to a lot of half Japanese while I was flying to Miami and back and still doing 8 shows here and not sleeping and dealing with these truly psychotic people, and I really liked it. And they paid me a lot of money. And I was talking to MC Caustic, and I said to him how bad I felt about doing the whole Miami Vice thing. And he said, well, you can make yourself feel better by taking all the money you made on Miami Vice and doing something with it that you'd be really happy about. How about we start a record company that would put out half Japanese and all that stuff that you really like? And the proof, of course, that it was made, it was put together just to put out half Japanese was the name of it. I wanted to call it Miami Vice Records. And I called my lawyer, who said that I really didn't have a chance, and MC Caustic was against it because he said, who in the avant-garde, the hipsters, are going to buy something from Miami Vice Records? And I said, well, the name of the record company is not going to matter. This will be really funny. And no one agreed with me. My lawyer also felt it was actionable. So we went to a Jad name, 50 skadillion watts of power in the hands of babies. But the idea was to take the Miami Vice money and do something really, really good with it. And we did. I mean, we ended up, I paid an awful lot for each one of these records, but I enjoy them.
Life is one of the great half Japanese albums. This was when the group started, or the writing started to get into a bit more of a conventional pop song structure. This was perhaps the first time where they were starting to write like a verse chorus bridge kind of format, and they did it real well. Just with their unique vantage point, their unique perspective, and it didn't sound like anyone else's pop songs. It sounded still very much half Japanese and still very beautiful songs, and yet they were starting to get into something that this was the point where I think the college audience was really starting to latch onto them in a big way, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why.
I would say that Charmed Life far outstrips either Sgt. Pepper or Exile on Main Street. In fact, of those 3 records, it's the only one that I have bought and would buy again. Exile I had for a while when I was in college. I don't know how I came by it, probably through theft. Sgt. Pepper I got for a birthday present. And I was very upset they made me crack the seal and actually play it at the party so that I couldn't return it. Charmed Life is a masterful record in every way. The thought, my mate Jimmy and I, the guy that I do Forced Exposure with, had gotten test pressings of it when it was originally supposed to come out. And like many other people involved in the fanzine world who did get copies, were just sitting waiting for the half-Japanese explosion really to arrive. Half-Japanese mania, to quote an old half-Japanese song, why have Beatles mania when you could have Shags mania, or you could have Yoko mania? And we thought, well, you should have half-Japanese mania. And Charmed Life seemed to really poise them on the verge of world conquest, and it didn't come out. Test pressing was the only evidence of that for a long time, and unfortunately, by the time the album did come out, the band had changed so much that they were onto a whole new level of material, and were never really able to. Well, I thought that and the lineup on the Loud album were particularly world-beating in terms of actual live performance, and if they would have gone out and really, gotten to the natives in the hinterlands of the States, it could have made changes in a lot of people's lives who have sort of stayed, vogue otherwise. And, as far as the Stones or the Beatles creating albums that are anywhere near the quality of Charmed Life, they wish, they wish.
It was so frustrating with the album to have recorded it and then we had to wait for its release. It was nearly 4 years, after recording the album that the record actually did make it out. And it was a long 4 years. I mean, when you do something that you're most proud of, even waiting 4 weeks is a long time, but this was just too much.
I got this record, Charmed Life, like Rambo got the MIAs out of Vietnam. I ran into LA with a big yell of, "Do I get to win this time?" There was a scumbag by the name of Michael. I probably shouldn't remember his name. I can remember his name, but I probably shouldn't. There were many scumbags in LA. We all know some. And one guy had all the stuff for Charmed Life and all this artwork and everything else. And he had this whole deal. And he was a guy who walked around LA with no shoes on and was phenomenally dirty. And this is the kind of fans that half Japanese attracted, among others. And he had Charmed Life. And Jad would call, say Pen. And he would tell me that he had been hosed on this deal, and they had the masters, and there was no way to get them back. And at that time, I still believed, like Nixon, that the end justifies the means, which I now believe is the most evil thought possible. But at that time, I thought, well, if I get Charmed Life for Jad, I'll have done the right thing. So I went out and I beat up this guy in every way possible. First of all, we had just finished doing a movie or something, and we had lawyers and we had muscle. And I was out in LA to do some sort of pitch meeting with somebody. And I took an extra day and I called up a friend, and we called up this guy and we invited him out to lunch. And then I talked about how I wanted to buy everything from him. The masters, the artwork, everything for Charmed Life to come out. And I wanted complete rights to them. And that I wanted to give him money. Now, he started talking about how he wanted thousands and thousands of dollars. And I started pulling out, I had brought $1,000 in 20s with me. And I'd stuck the $1,000 in all different pockets. So it looked like I was really, really rich. And I took him to this pizza place when he was clearly like hungry and miserable. And I bought a lot of like pizza and stuff, which he was scarfing down. And then while I was discussing his deal for like $10,000 and my deal for like $100, I kept throwing money out on the table, like just $100, $200, $300 in 20s. And he said, well, no, I want like 10,000 for this. And it was clear that he needed money really, really badly. So I kept laying money down and getting him very, very interested. And then I made a deal with him that I could get all the rights to everything and the master tapes if I gave him something like $500. But it was half and half. It was $500 then and then $500 later. Maybe it was $250 then, $250 later. And he told me that I could, he would meet me at the pressing plant to pick up the masters the next day. I gave him half the money. And the next day I called his house and his sister told me he had gone to Mexico. So I went to the pressing plant and I called NBC, Brandon Tartikoff's secretary, because I wanted a big name. And I told her to call at 1 o'clock and say, Penn Jillette had a meeting over there, could I please get there? I went in at 12:30, went to the pressing plant and said, I'm here to pick up all the half-Japanese stuff from Iridescence Records, everything to give to me. I said, I'm supposed to meet this guy here. She said, he's not here. I said, I'm sure he'll show up, I'll wait. At 1 o'clock or 1:30, NBC called, said, this is Brandon Tartikoff's office. Where's Penn? We have a meeting with him. I said to her, no problem, I'll wait here. NBC called every 5 minutes. I'd set this up. And she said, I can't give it to you without his signature. I said, of course not. Please don't. Please don't. I sat for 45 minutes. The calls coming in every 5 minutes. And finally, after me begging her not to give me this stuff, she forged his signature herself, brought out everything she had in the back room, all the artwork, all the tapes, gave them to me. Said, I've seen you on TV. I saw you on Miami Vice. I really liked you. Here's everything with a forged signature. I then called him up 2 days later and said, I already have everything. He shit. He went crazy. He cried. I said, that's the deal we had. You went to Mexico, you motherfucker. And then I went and gave him the rest of the money, while I had the stuff in a different car locked in the trunk, because sure enough, he ran to the car to try to get it. And then I also had Jad. He was calling Jad up and telling Jad, you got to let me keep this stuff. And I told Jad, if you say one word to him of encouragement or get me in any legal trouble, I will never talk to you again, and I will try to hurt you physically. So Jad just took his phone off the hook for 2 days. This whole thing was done in, like Rambo, come on, you POWs! I got Charmed Life, and I brought it out. And it's a great record, and it was worth it. The end justified the means, in this one case, but no other case.
Roman Candles was on the album Charmed Life. I wrote Roman Candles a long time ago. We recorded a version of that during the sessions that we did back in, I think, 85 for the record Sing No Evil. It originally was going to be going on that, but I didn't like it as well as some of the other songs on that record. Now we redid the song during Charmed Life, and I think it worked out quite a bit better during those sessions. It's well, it's just it has a nice line in it. I think that Ricky Dreyfuss came up with was she lights up the night like a Roman candle, and I'm fond of that line because it has a real fireworks kind of thing going to it, and I think that's quite romantic.
1, 2, 3, 4. Roman candles light up the midnight sky. I hear the bells of St. Matthew's ringing. A mariachi band goes walking by. And in the dark night, birds are singing. They sing a song of sweetness. They sing a song of joy. Then they take wing and they fly all together. Without a word between us, without a word we knew, without a word we knew there's love between us. Hand in hand, hand in hand we walk, heart to heart we talk. We'll talk about things we did today, then talk about things we'll do some other day. And then we'll say goodnight, but first let's kiss. I'm glad you're a girl. You light up the night like a Roman candle. You light up, light up the night. You light up the night like a Roman candle.
Independent labels were really the backbone of the industry until a certain point when the major labels really started gobbling up all of the independents. Labels like Atlantic were independents. The Erdogan brothers started them out of a shoebox or something. And, there was a time when Atlantic Records was no bigger than the original 50 Skadillion Watts. It was just two brothers with a dream. Why they didn't become the New Atlantic, I'm not really sure. Maybe they didn't sign enough new bands. But people like Atlantic and everyone else subsequently, in their stranglehold on the radio, their stranglehold on, the press through advertising dollars. Places like Rolling Stone would rather, somebody like Jan Wenner would rather die. He'd rather eat ice cream until he died than have to admit even that a band like Half Japanese existed. You could face it. You just say, Jan, here it is. It's all over. I'm going to fill you up with whipped cream until you explode like the doughboy you are. Or you can play this record. And Jan would opt for the nitrous oxide and sugar-laced Death Trip, I think. Screw him and everybody else. Radio stations are much the same. Face the programmer at even a hip station in Boston. Like WBCN or something like that. Oedipus, sit him down and say, here, play a good record or play this lousy record that's on a major label or play this great record that's not. And for whatever reason, a guy who even considers himself hip is going to go, well, look, I really have to go with who pays the bills, and it's the major labels that do it. And they're going to play lousy major label records, and if they die, maybe that's why. Maybe that'll kill them. And who could be really sad about something like that?
It's hard for me to hold Rolling Stone accountable for being so fucking evil. I remember they put The Clash on the cover of the magazine in 1980, and I think it turned out to be like their lowest selling issue ever. And the problem was that they put The Clash on the cover of the magazine. I mean, who the hell wanted to see those guys? These pasty-faced, oh, look at me, I'm James Dean, that kind of shit. Had they put Jad David Fair on the cover of the magazine in 1980, not only would they have, would Rolling Stone have been way ahead of their time, if they had done that, we wouldn't have any alternative press or Spin magazine or CMJ today, because Rolling Stone would have already cornered the market on it. But yeah, they would have sold a lot more issues. I definitely think Jad's Face would sell more magazines than Mick Jones.
Half Japanese was very wrapped up in their influences of groups such as Velvet Underground, Bob Dylan, the Stooges, groups whose cover versions of their songs they did. And yet, on the other hand, they were completely unlike any of those groups that they were so overwhelmed by.
I will want to have some backup vocals. Well, there's a record company called Imaginary over in England, and they're putting together a Velvet Underground compilation record, and I'm trying to get a song put on that. So we decided to do I Heard Her Call My Name. And I did ask Mo if she would play on the song, and she told me that she would.
Are they rolling?
Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4. Gone, gone, gone. Baby, baby. Got my eyes wide open. Ever since I walked on Cripple Monday, I got my eyeballs on my knees. I read for hours with man Williams. Said he not understood a word from me. Because I know she cares about me. I heard her call my name. Heard her call my name. Yes, I know she's long dead and gone. Still it ain't the same. Heard her call my name. When I wake up in the morning, mama, I heard her call my name. Heard her call my name. I know she's dead and gone, gone, gone. I heard her call my name. That's on my hospital.
I guess I was a little behind the times on Velvet Underground because, it was a little bit before my time. I was a big Lou Reed fan, and, when I was in high school, it's like Metal Machine was definitely one of my favorite albums. And so it was a big thrill for me when I was doing the Mo record that she did. Lou came over to do some tracks on it, and I broke out my 8-track of Metal Machine music and got him to sign it. So that was really that was great for me. I also got him to sign my Berlin 8-track, and I think he was pretty impressed too. He said, "My God, where did you get these?" I don't think he even had 8 tracks of any of it. So, but I guess you know, a lot of people have asked in the past, you know, did you name the Velvet Monkeys after Velvet Underground? And most of the time I'll deny it, but you know, I think at the time it was sort of like my favorite American bands were Velvet Underground and the Monkees. So I figured, you know, that's sort of what we were when we started, was somewhere in between the two of them, you know, but definitely the greatest American bands.
Half Japanese are the inventors of many genres, besides good noise. I believe also that there have been times when they have been the very best band. Not only in the world, probably in the universe. I'd go that far. You know, they really did boil everything down to its basics, and then blow those basics up right in your face, in a way that no one else seemed capable of doing or even interested in doing. And a good noise was a genre that I think may have been invented sort of semantically by Lester Bangs, or maybe somebody at Slash, in terms of, yeah, it's noise, and boy, it's good.
Jad has been able to keep putting stuff out when other people go crazy. And I think that's allowed him to get better. There's a certain kind of, I hate to use a word like this, but there's an organic quality where Jad Fair started out with no musical skill whatsoever, and just all the right feelings and the right passions and listening to the right stuff, and then learned very slowly. And I think that gives them a much broader scope, because you've got the Men Not Beasts, which starts out with just nothing, just banging wonderful, great stuff, and you go right up until the later stuff when Kramer comes in and actually puts things that are in the right key, and that gives you a real microcosm there. I remember when the Residents discovered what it meant to transpose from one key to another. It was a big breakthrough on their records, whereas in the history of music, it's just a little bump in like the 14th century or something. And Half Japanese has done that same thing. You get to listen to Jad learning to play guitar. After he knows the sound he wants, then he learns to play it. And it gives him a great example. Also, there's a good long hunk of time. I think there's probably other bands that have had that same intensity that have lasted for, 2 weeks in Seattle, and who cares? We never heard of it.
Well, the thing I would most like to be remembered for would be writing the most popular song in the history of the world. I think I've done some songs that have come very, very close. But that's my aim. That's my goal.
1, 2, 3, 4. It didn't work out like I had planned it, but it did work better than I thought it would. Lots better. Way, way better. You hurt my feelings more than once, and made me feel bad more than twice. And I thought, well, if I could get you jealous, you might want me more and treat me better. 1 million kisses or 1 million girls. No kisses left for you. 1 million kisses for 1 million girls, and I did it. Like I had planned it. You didn't even care about it. You didn't treat me any better after it. So I guess I just don't care about it. 1 million kisses for 1 million girls. No kisses left for you. 1 million kisses for 1 million girls, and I did it all for you and me.
Half Japanese seemed to exist purely for the pleasure of Jad and David. In fact, it was hard to imagine that they were doing it for anybody else to hear. A bedroom band is a pure band, really, that I think would exist regardless of any kind of commercial pressures that might, a garage band is somebody that's looking for a manager. A bedroom band perhaps is looking for a girl, but nothing more.
Half Japanese offer encouragement to people all over the world who either can't play because they don't have the proper training or they don't have the proper gear, or perhaps they were born with webbed hands like the children of Bree Walker Lampley. There could be any number of reasons for it, but a good one-note guitar solo, I'll take that over Steve Vai any day of the week.
To this day, I think Jad maybe can play 1 or 2 chords, maybe 3 at the most on guitar, but for most of the time, neither of them could technically play a note of music. They didn't really know how to play drums or anything, and they just did it their own way, in much the way that I equate with sort of the Shags, what they did, which is just completely remake music from scratch. And these guys have done that, and yet they've managed to make an incredible body of work with amazing variety, and it all comes down to one word, which is imagination.
Every mall in America to have, half Japanese in the window. But I understand why that's not going to happen tomorrow. I understand why that may not happen in 5 years. But it's something that you work towards slowly every day, a little bit at a time. And I think when you try to make that happen too fast, I don't like the results. And I think it's to the credit of half Japanese that. After all this time, they still sound like themselves. If by some weird chance they ever did have an opportunity to make a record for a Time Warner or a David Geffen or any of these other companies that are now owned by German or Japanese firms, I don't anticipate that they would do an awful lot to try to meet those companies halfway. I just don't think they could. I mean, how do you take someone like Jad Fair? How do you take someone like Jad Fair? Jad Fair's voice, the voice of Jad Fair. What do you do to say to him? How does Jad Fair sound more like Bob Seger? How does Jad Fair even sound more like the guy from Nirvana? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just not going to happen.
Is a matter of fact, and it's gone and it will never come back, and mine is wasted all the time.
The reason that most rock critics can agree on Half Japanese is that they're so great that you either really do like them, or you can at least acknowledge that you should, and you'd just be the worst square in the world if you said they were awful. And the thought of having all that opprobrium heaped on them, I think makes even some critics who don't actually care for them claim that they do care for them in order to appear not so bad to both themselves and their descendants. To have your grandchildren say, "God, you gave Half Japanese a bad review,"
That's where my love goes.
Just be the worst.
And it brings me down. Time I bring into a knot. Those tears, stupid tears, bring me down.
The one thing I can say bad about Half Japanese is that it still comes under the category of rock and roll. I really thought we should have been over that. Rock and roll should be just nostalgia, and we shouldn't have Guns N' Roses, and we shouldn't have Half Japanese. They should have been doing something else. And I was always waiting for the time that their music would come. I mean, I'm 36 years old, and there should be music out there that I don't understand. And there just isn't. I would like to feel what people felt when they heard Elvis Presley, and I don't think I'm going to get a chance to.
Out to the wind, that's where my love goes, and it brings me down. Tie my brain into a knot.
Well, I mean, the media is pretty sure of itself. You know, I mean, they think they've got it all figured out. And they figured out a lot for us. I mean, we now know that the Apollo moon landing never really happened. That, you know, that John F. Kennedy was never really assassinated. I mean, there's a lot of things we found out that the media have tricked us into believing. And I think there has been a conspiracy to keep the message of half Japanese away from, you know, America's breakfast table. So I just think they're afraid. I think they're afraid of the truth. I think they're afraid of, you know, there's a lot at stake. I mean, I think if you have someone like a Madonna who is very popular and is like the star of the moment, I think it sends out a message to the entire country that this is what you should aspire to be. This is your role model. And I think it's nice that's a role model that most people in America they're never going to be like Madonna. Jad Fair, I mean, while he is, you know, the greatest, I think he's more of a realistic role model. I think more people, you know, can relate to Jad Fair than they can to Madonna. And I think that's the problem. I mean, I think if you did have someone on top who set that sort of example, that you don't need to know how to play, that you can do it yourself, you can do it out of your own house for 15, 16 years, slowly and surely. I think if everyone in the country knew about that, you know, I think there would be a chain reaction. I think there would be a chain reaction of some sort.
You know, I think that Jad and David really do have a message that could be shared with all the young people in the States that would like to have a band. And the basic idea is that if you have something inside of you and it has to get out, you know, don't worry about the technique of getting it out. Just blow it right out. And that's all you can do. And sometimes it's better than anything else.
I could see it coming from a mile away, and I just stood back and watched. I don't need eyes in the back of my head. No, something's really wrong. I'm looking into the eye of the hurricane. I'm looking into the eye of the hurricane. Gibby took a jackknife out of his back pocket and carved 666 in his forehead, while the butthole surfers walk around with their heads chopped off. That's what I want to know. I saw Rocky Erickson the other day. Man, things are really starting to get scary. I don't need eyes in the back of my head. No, things are getting hairy. I'm looking into the eye of the hurricane. I'm looking into the eye of pure evil. All my friends are dressing in black, and there's a star on the floor. There's too many candles in this room, I can't see what I'm doing, and neither can they. It might not happen tomorrow, but just you wait and you'll see. It might not even happen next year, just you wait
Half Japanese is, in fact, the band that would be king, were they given the opportunity. And what's really kind of sick about that is not the hope or the wish to be king, just to make a living and have your music heard by all the people who would like to hear it. It's a wonderful album. He put that and Charmed Life Out right on top of each other, and they're both fabulous. And I think the Band That Would Be King cover is the best album cover I've ever seen. I love it with it. Jad is fighting Elvis, and on the back cover, Jad wins.
Are half Japanese the greatest rock and roll band of all time? That's an interesting question. Looking at all the records, looking at everything they've ever done, on record, in print, on stage. I mean, you could definitely make a case for it. That's a tough one, because sometimes you just throw things like that out there just for the sake of hyperbole, just to start a fight. It was the idea of just trying to start a fight that Jad himself would have to finish later on. If you hang that around Jad's neck, the greatest rock performer of all time, that means every time he takes the stage, he has to live up to it. And I kind of like putting that kind of pressure on him, because I think he can live up to it.
I did a show in Berlin last year, and someone came up to me after the show and asked me if I'd ever heard of Jad Fair, and I told him that I had, and then he said to me that I sound quite a bit like Jad Fair, and I told him that, well, I sound exactly like Jad Fair. Ask him in the afternoon what time he thinks it is. He'll say it's around 3 or 4, and it almost always is. In every other aspect, he's just a normal man, but he has a strange ability to do what no one can. I tested him in the daytime, and I tested him at night. And no matter when I tested him, he's always supposed to rhyme. In every other aspect, he's just a normal man, but he has a strange ability to do what no one can. Asked him at the table one day as we ate lunch. He said it was around noon, and he claimed it was just a hunch. In every other aspect, he's just a normal man, but he has a strange ability to do what no one can.